Hi everybody, Lori here for Pinkfresh Studio. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a fun, colorful, clean, and simple project to share with you featuring the new Summer Blooms stencil set along with the coordinating Summer Blooms die set. So this is a layering stencil set and you can die cut. Now the die is one big die that allows you to die cut all the stenciled images in one shebang. But I'm going to do a little different take on it. I'm going to show you just a creative way that you can use this if you don't want to blend all of the images that are in the stencil set. I'm going to be focusing on just these two little leaf clusters. So it's like the open solid leaf, and then the other stencil has the detail to that little leaf cluster. And I went ahead and cut 8 little scraps of white cardstock. I'm using hammer mill. Any white cardstock will do. The reason I cut them small is because I'm only going to be blending that little leaf cluster. I'm not going to blend the whole stencil. And again, like I say, this is just another way that you can get a little more mileage out of this Summer Blooms stencil set. So the first cluster, I did a mixture of sparkling rose and then bubblegum, a little bit on the bottom left, kind of faded it up, bit of gradient love, laying it on stencil number 2, which is kind of the detail or vines of that little leaf cluster. And I kept that bubblegum ink out. I'm going to be using all Pinkfresh Studio inks. If I don't mention the colors, I'll have everything linked in the description box below. Okay, so going over that with bubblegum, it's going to be like a tone on tone leaf. And this is so fun to do. It's a little bit of repetition, which is right up my alley. So there you have cluster number 1 blended. I'm going to clean my stencil and move on to the next square. So we're going into the corally shades. This is Coral Reef, and I give it a light wash, just a flat light wash of that coral reef, and then I go in with a darker shade, which is Passion Fruit. So I love how Pinkfresh Studio has their ink kind of in groupings or little families, so you can always get the darker shade. But if you don't have 1,000,001 different inks, you can achieve this same look just by giving an extra little bit of pressure on the bottom, bottom left of your leaf to give it that sort of gradient love. You don't have to use separate inks, but I do like to use them because I love these colors. Okay, moving on to the oranges, giving it a light wash of Peach Fuzz. So here on out, I'm just going to repeat this whole process, and I'm doing it 8 times. And I knew I was going to form some sort of wreath or half wreath. I wasn't sure, depending on how much these leaves would cover. I wasn't really sure. Okay, so I did clementine for the darker viney detail of that. Now moving on to a yellow cluster. Now, of course, this is a very non-traditional way to use this Summer Blooms stencil set. Generally, you're probably going to have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 panel, line it up with the registration marks, and you can blend all the things, the images, you can blend them different color, and then you get the detail, and then the die cuts them all out at once. But I wanted to show you, maybe something different that you could do, just thinking a little bit outside the box. Okay, moving on to a green cluster. I've got fresh pear, and then I'm going to give it that detail with grassy knoll. How's everybody doing? Are you enjoying the heat of the summer? If it's hot where you are. My daughter asked me today, Mom, what do you like better, summer or winter? I said fall. She's like, no, that's not one of the answers, summer or winter. I'm like, why do you got to take fall out? Because fall's my favorite. But if I had to pick, I guess I'd say summer, not because I like the heat, but because I like the sunshine. And then she's like, okay, what do you like better, the beach or the mountains? And I'm like, again, I like them both. I don't know. I hate these kind of questions. If somebody asks you, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? I like all the foods. I like all the colors. But I said beach. And then the next question was, what do you like better, Mom? Camping or a hotel? Well, that's an easy one. Hotel for me. Hotel for me all day long. And luckily, when they asked Dad the same questions, he gave the same answers as me. So that's when we're, I think it's next week, we're kind of coming up on our 27th wedding anniversary. So what I was going to say is that's when you've been married a long time and you're a little bit like-minded. So, yeah, I can't believe it's been 27 years. You know what that means? I think that means we're getting old. I don't know, but what are we going to do for our anniversary? We'll probably go out to eat. I don't know. It's always a debate. We don't have a ton of great restaurants to choose from around here. We're kind of picky. We get to that age where you're like, you could make this better at home. I'm turning into my mom. My mom used to always say that if we went out to eat. She's like, I could have made this so much better and cheaper if we just ate at home. But the thing is, then you got dishes. So it's a give and take. Okay, we're rounding out the purple cluster. I did soft lilac and candy violet, adding that little bit of viney detail. And then we're going to go into the die cutting portion. So there's 8 blended clusters, and we're going to use that die. Now it's a large one-piece die, but we only need to die cut that little cluster. So you line it up. I'm going to use a little Easy C tape. I end up switching to some masking tape later. Take it off camera, run it through my die cutting machine, and just pop out that little purple cluster. And again, repetition. I don't know if you're one of those people. I kind of love repetition. I get into the zone. It gets a little bit like, I don't know, when I get into the zone, I just enjoy it. Kind of takes my mind off of life and all the things, and I just enjoy the process. I guess that's why a lot of people say crafting is therapy, or crafting is cheaper than therapy. I don't know, but I'm lucky that I get to do this just about every day, and sometimes I need to take a break from it. I don't know if you're like that, but this has kind of really become my job. So I have a lot of deadlines, and sometimes I need to give my creativity a break. It definitely is a muscle, and it's a strain. Okay, I have a panel of cream cardstock. I'm using these nested arches dies, and I'm going to die cut a little arch right into this cream panel, halfway, kind of sticking out. So I decided to do a little half arch floral decorative thingamabob. But first I'm going to stamp a sentiment. So I have a standard white card, putting that in my MISTI, laying down that cream panel, and I'm going to use a sentiment from the Delicate Foliage stamp set. This little scripty, Enjoy Today. There's a lot of different sentiments that you could fit into this arch for various occasions, but I just pulled that one out. I like the font of it. I like the sentiment, and I'm just going to simply stamp that with black ink onto that white card base. And then I'm going to put a bunch of foam tape behind that cream panel and pop it up. You know, because dimension is life. And then we're going to get to gluing our leaf little clusters. I'm going to start with purple down on the bottom left, and then I'm going to work my way over on the right. So I'm going to go each one right to left, and I felt like that would help me somehow get better even spacing. Now I did lay this out before I started gluing. I laid them all out to see, you know, how far apart did I need to space them? Did I have enough to fill in all the gaps? You kind of got to get the lay of the land before you start gluing things down. But yeah, this is how I did it. Little bit of glue. I didn't glue the whole thing down. That way I could zhuzh those leaves, you know, but I'm just kind of working my way up from the left and from the right, and hopefully I'll end up even with the last one. It's always a bit of a guessing game whenever you do something like this, but somehow it's very forgiving. I feel like it always works out. So there you have your little half arch wreath framing that sentiment. The best part for me is the zhuzh. I love zhuzhing those leaves, lifting them up, giving them a little air. I know they might get flattened out in the envelope, but this part's for me. Okay, finish it off with a few clear drops, these Iridescent clear drops by Pinkfresh Studio. I'm using that gorgeous gold wand and that gold embellishment tray. I'll tell you what, the Pinkfresh Studio tools are fancy shamancy. And this card is finished. It's very clean and simple, but it packs that cheery, colorful punch. I love that scripty sentiment and how the, you know, arch just kind of draws your eye into the center. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day, or should I say, enjoy today. And I will see you next time.